the whole point is. And in a lot of organizations, a lot of times that's the only thing that's kind of amiss. Not that the resources aren't there, but they may not be being used to their peak
Right.
efficiency because they're not working together towards that end. And so that also leads into, point two, communication. Once we get to developing our efficiency and working together, making sure that whatever resources we produce, whatever services that we're offering, we're able to communicate them to the community, both locally and at large. That means working with other municipalities, working with other counties, and developing relationships that are sound, both with our state elected officials and our federal elected officials. And so those building components kind of help to, as far as what I see the department being able to do. To the third point, which is cultivation. I've kind of stolen a key phrase from one of my directors, which is we've got to become better stewards of what we have. Those assets that are belong to the city, belong to taxpayers, are things we got to be able to take better value and care of. We've got to be able to create an environment where we're facilitating proper oversight of what we're given. And what I see as one of the responsibilities of my office will be to implement and to insert efficiencies, and where there are deficiencies and where we're not using taxpayers' resources properly, removing those deficiencies. Because ultimately, I think the goal across the board would be to make sure that we're serving the people, that they know that they're being serviced, and that we're doing the best to affect positive change through the best uses of their dollars. And so that's, as far as speaking to your commitment, I'm with you 100%. We've got to. I've also heard people say, so just since I've been here, that there's a separation. And so when the community speaks about government, they don't think about government as serving them. They think of that entity across the street that doesn't really have a part in my community. And so I think it's going to be essential in looking towards the future, long term. When I say long term, I'm not talking about the next budget cycle, next year. But what are we doing to lay out a sound plan from infrastructure to safety, economic development, community improvement for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Another thing that's kind of not on there, but I was a member, I don't know if that's what you're going to speak to, I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma. And one of the things while I was there, was that it?
Unfortunate.
One of the things one of my responsibilities with the fraternity was I was the
You're
senior.
doing good. Don't start
I
talking
don't
about
do good.
Yeah,
I was the senior advisor. Now I worked across all lines. I was a senior advisor for our Sigma Beta Club, which is our youth auxiliary group, and great opportunity and experience for me. I got to work with about over 7 years, about 154 young men who all came from single parent homes. I want to say it was about 2 to 3% every year who actually had a 2-parent home. And one of the things that I used to always impress upon them was that, it's not about me reaping the benefits of what I'm giving to you, or me having some expectations, but I realized that when working with you, it may be 10 years from now that somebody will be able, that you'll be able to benefit from things that I'm giving you. And so that's kind of what I bring to Jackson. It may not be in my time frame, but my goal and my job is to make sure that the future of Jackson is prepared for whoever's going to be there. And so that's my long-term vision and idea towards working to a better city.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Stamps.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Green, again, I believe you represent, I would first echo what everyone else has said, but I think you represent what Jackson really needs, people who were educated here, groomed here, gone other places and seen other things, and worked at higher levels, and then bring those skills back to Jackson. So I appreciate you for coming back, because you could be anywhere in the world, like Mr. Simone said. My first question is, why do you want to do this?
Why do I want to do this? It sounds cliche, but there's no place like home. If you can't take care of your home first, I think it speaks a lot for your idea of where character is. And for me, Jackson means a lot. Yeah, I see the news like everybody else does. I read the papers, but that doesn't change the fact that Jackson has some phenomenal things going on with it and some very outstanding people. And so to me, it's more of an honor and a privilege to come back than it is for it to be considered a trial or a tribulation. I'm really excited about coming back and seeing what we can do to move Jackson forward.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that to light, because a lot of times you get to choosing where you want to work and what you want to do. There is no place like home. And then next, I want to say, what do you bring to the table? A lot of people are going to say that you are young for the position, that you may not have a certain municipal experience. And I want you to speak to, how are you going to reel in department heads and senior people in personnel who have been here for a long time? Why should they listen to you? I know why, but you tell the world why.
While I was in Hattiesburg, one of the last positions I served in was public information officer. And because of some of the things I brought to the table, some initiatives I created that had not been existing in the city to expand the community's knowledge of not only what the police department was doing, but what the city was doing as a whole, the mayor selected me to be a part of his committee that was developed for the purpose of expanding his platform's communication. And so in that position, I had to work with directors. One of the key times that came up during the time while I was working there was the unfortunate events around Katrina. Katrina kind of tested a lot of us, but again, I was right there in the root of it all. With I want to say I was the youngest face in the room in most cases, and what I found to be those people who really want to see things move forward is that it doesn't matter what your age is, and along with the other realm of things that diversify us, as long as when you come, you have a passion for the interest that's on the table, and that you have a competency and a capacity to actually work in that regard. And so that speaks to my 10 years while I was in Hattiesburg on the municipal government side, but also on the federal government side. One of the implied powers of Congress is that we have the ability to give oversight to the executive branch. And in that field, it wasn't uncommon for me to have to facilitate a meeting with Secretary Holder with the Department of Justice when we were working on issues that were going to be, sensitive to the constituents of the Second Congressional District. It wasn't rare for me to had to pick up the phone and say, how you doing, Secretary Solis? I know, you're busy, but can the Department of Labor come over so we can discuss some things that are going on with Mine Act, which is one of our job creators here. It just wasn't uncommon for me to have to pick up my phone and speak with Jackie Barron, who was the director of EEOC, to say, what can we do to make sure that employee rights are being protected and preserved in Mississippi? And so speaking across lines of age, I've just found that people are much more receptive to me once they meet me and they know that, one, the passion is there and the capacity is there. And so that's the same thing I hope to bring to Jackson. I have had the opportunity, as the mayor said, and work on the transition team. And just in the short time I've been here and we've been going through budgets to work with all of the directors and several of the deputy and division directors. And we've had great relationships, great conversations, because I didn't come in saying, I'm the new young guy who wants to change everything. I came in saying, where are you? What's our status? How can we make this better, and how do we move forward? And I think people respect that.
Well, thanks a lot. And like I said, I'm glad you answered in the way you did. That really confirms in my mind, how I'm going to vote, but also displays to the people what you represent, what you bring to the table. I think that's my time.
Council Lady Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Good morning, Mr. Green.
Good morning.
We all know, or many of us know, about your strong family background, and your resume is impeccable. You seem to have done things that are just right for what we need in the city of Jackson right now. Your experience in the nation's capital is something that should play well to your position here in Jackson, the state's capital. We have forever complained and wondered why the state of Mississippi does not do more to help us here in the city of Jackson. We are the host to state government, which is a wonderful thing, but it is also a thing that takes a lot of the buildings and the business off the tax rolls for our city. So what we need to do is try to develop a relationship on the state side that will help to support their city. They're actually here doing business in. We need the help of the state government. Also, businesses in the city. We have heard over the years that when business tries to come, there are these encumbrances put upon them, all kind of roadblocks. Why not to do business here? We're hoping for a business-friendly atmosphere with your administration. And secondly, I'd like to ask about departments. Do you plan to evaluate departments, and what is your vision for department heads?
I'll take the first portion. I think you gave me about at least 2.5 questions. And I'm going to steal from Councilman Yarber's point of interest in his question. I've never had a problem with working across group lines. I think that's where our strength lies, when we can include diversity and we can include opportunities that may not be familiar with us from other groups of people who have been using those opportunities. I can't do anything but echo your sentiments. It's essential to the progress of Jackson that we have sound, not just passive, but sound relationships and rapport with our state elected officials and our federal elected officials. And the good thing, as you say, has been my experience with working from the federal level, because that's the kind of position that we've had to take. We couldn't just push for things for Jackson. We couldn't just push for things for the 2nd Congressional District. When we had to make, when we lost the House, we had to start kind of be pushed into a position where, and I hate to say push, but it became much more clear that if we were going to, work to some end, we were going to have to work together. And I think that should be reflective on the state level as well. There are a lot of commonalities that we share as far as our interest for making sure that Jackson is a better place. As the metropolitan city, we should be a pillar and things that people can look at to say, that's what I want to model my city after. And so that's my thinking and where Jackson should be and how we should be helping municipalities and cities around us. In looking at the departments and the divisions and those directors, that was a part of my original role when I came here with the transition team. It was to look at the city, see where efficiencies were, see where we could do improvements, and make recommendations to the mayor. Ultimately, many of those decisions, a lot of those decisions lie with the mayor. But we have had a good relationship, and we do consistently communicate where we could do some improvements. I think some things that everyone knows that he's kind of pushed is for our youth, for our infrastructure, for our housing, and for business development. And so from my position, what my responsibility then becomes is to look at his vision and lay it across those departments and say, if we're going to meet these ends, and this is what our goal is, these things have got to be in place, or these things are going to have to change, or we're going to have to develop our strong points. I don't want to give a tone to that statement to say that there are a lot of bad things going on in Jackson, because like I said, I've had the opportunity to work though short in time with a lot of city employees, and a lot of them are doing some great things. And so my job is also not just to point out the bad things, but to look and see where we're doing some great things and to build upon those. And so that's going to be my plan consistently across all departments to build in those efficiencies and remove the deficiencies.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say that your nomination, I believe, sends a strong signal to the children of the Jackson Public Schools that anything is possible, that if you work hard and you do good things will follow you, and you can sit next to the mayor of the city of Jackson as a former Jackson Public School student. And I just thank the mayor for his vision in that regard. Thank you.
Councilman Priester.
Thank you. I note with pleasure that the president of the Hinds County Board of Supervisors is here, and also your counterpart at the county, Ms. Carmen Davis, is here. And I would like you to speak, if you would, about your plans or thoughts about how we can, in particular, work with Ms. Davis and work better with the county. I know that Mr. Supervisor Graham has made some commitments regarding trying to improve the relationship between the city and the county, try to realize some initiatives that the mayor has put forth, particularly with relation to, for example, cleaning some of these ditches that are such a huge concern to so many of our constituents. But I think it's going to be extremely important, particularly with relation to the jail situation, to have better coordination between Hinds County and the city of Jackson. And so I would like you to just share your opinions about how better we can develop that relationship and how you might be able to work with Ms. Davis to accomplish some of the ends that both the county and the city share.
Just before you make those comments, Supervisor Graham was mentioned. We also have our former first administrative chief here. We have acting Supervisor Robert Walker, president who used to work dealing with this council under the Milton administration. I just wanted to make sure he was recognized that you called.
I apologize. Can't see for looking. My bad.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Councilman. There's an ease, not to be translated as the job I see as being easy, but there's an ease that comes along with it for me, because it's his home, and so with Miss Davis, she's a friend. We even before I went to work with the congressman's office, we've known each other. And I'm not to tell her age or tell my age, but we've known each other, and so working together should come relatively easy with us. Not to speak directly to some of the current things going on, but we have been in communications. You mentioned the jail, but we've also I've had an opportunity to work with her and President Graham on issues concerning Henley Young, and one of the things that we've kind of found throughout our experiences of working together is that we share some commonalities on making sure that our underprivileged, our underserved, our underrepresented are protected, that the right